Hi, I'm Shanna Forrestall. I'm the producer and writer of Breathe. Breathe came about from a very personal experience. I had gone through what definitely was the darkest time of my life, and it had lasted for a while. And when I finally came through that season, I was having dinner with some filmmakers from Louisiana that I respect a lot, and I was sharing with them what I had been through in the season before. And one of them, Caleb, who's a dear friend, looked at me and he said, "Shanna, you really need to tell this story." And I shooed him off. I said, "No way, I've produced 5 short films. I'm not doing another one." Because birthing a film is like birthing a baby. I mean, it takes so much work, and unless you've done it, you just may not understand. But when I say I'm going to make a film, I'm in pre-production for months. And short films, you never have enough budget. You're always working with less crew, less resource, less money than you should have. So it truly is a labor of love. So when he said that, I was like, oh no, I'm not doing another film. I had already done 5 in the last 5 or so years, and I was just like, no, I'm finished with that. But it's interesting how ideas, they take root. And after we had that conversation in the next few days, I started to have images come into my head of this woman on her journey. And I was like, no more films. But I couldn't get away from it, and the story just kept coming to me. And it's interesting because Breathe is not my personal story in a sense of it's not literal at all. I have never suffered through what this woman suffered through. But I think what makes Breathe special is there's a commonality of pain when we've gone through a difficult season, whether that be a loss of a person or a relationship or trust or whatever it is that has happened. And I think that as humans, when we can relate to those stories of our personal stories of loss or grief or whatever it is, it doesn't have to be the same exact literal story, as long as we relate to the emotions that are being felt, the journey that the character's taking. So when this story came to me, I thought, wow, that's really different than my personal story, but it felt just as heavy, and that was what was important to me. Because when I went through this dark season, I didn't know how I would get out. And there were days where I wasn't sure I would. And I had never been in that space before. A lot of people struggle with depression and things on and off throughout their lifetime. That has not been me. I'd always been very optimistic. I wake up happy. I'm one of those people. I have a lot of energy. And for me to be in a dark space for an extended period of time was new to me. And the realization of the way that people may live in that space was really, it was eye-opening for me, and it gave me a new compassion. And that's why I think I couldn't get away from the concept of the film, because I knew that if there were people out there that felt the way that I did, especially if they felt that way for a long time, that I wanted to address it. And I wanted to, even if it was just one person, bring some hope, or bring maybe not necessarily a solution, but bring a new thought that maybe there's a way to get through this or a way to get over this. Then I felt like the work would be worth it. So that's what we tried to do with Breathe. We tried to capture a story that felt very real. We tried to capture a story that felt, in a way, literal. It could be a real story. It could have happened. It's a very realistic story. But also capture a story that had layers to it, that even if you hadn't been through that exact scenario, you could relate, you could understand. And I think that we did that. From the response that we've gotten back. And it was a choice also to not use dialogue. It was a little bit risky, and we at one point played with the idea of putting some voiceover in, and then we went back to the silence, because I think at the end of the day, the movie in a nutshell is just about that moment where you're hovering and you're just not sure you're going to make it. And I remember being in that moment, and the thought that went through my mind was just, Shanna, just breathe. And it's amazing how things that the day before might have seemed so natural, I didn't have to think about breathing the day before. I just breathed. But then when you're in that moment and the pain is so great, you have to remember those little things. And it's sometimes those little things, those tiny little moments where you make a choice to love yourself, or you make a choice to just hang on. You make a choice not to give up. You make a choice to let somebody know who cares about you. It's those moments that change everything. They're so little sometimes, but they're so big. And I remember on my journey, a friend took me on a road trip, and I remember we stopped at this aquarium in Monterey. It's one of the largest in the US. I think it's beautiful. And I remember being there, and I kind of wandered off to be by myself. And I remember standing in front of an aquarium of these beautiful jellyfish and just watching them. And it was watching them breathe that I realized, as hard as it is, it's really simple. It's really simple. You just have to keep breathing. And I knew that if I could keep breathing, that eventually it would get better, that the pain would lessen, that I would find a way to walk through that. And I think that's what happens for all of us, is you find in those little moments, big decisions that change everything. You know, they change everything because you just don't stop. You just keep breathing. And that's how we came to this story, and that's how we decided to create something that we hoped would encourage people that are in a dark space and would just remind them the simple thing. Just breathe. Once I knew that breathe was going to be a reality, that I wasn't going to be able to get away from it, I knew I had to put a really great team together. So I started with choosing an executive producer. I have a dear friend, Neil, that I've produced several of my short films with, and he was the first person I thought of right away to call and say, help, I have this idea and it won't go away. So I ran the idea past Neil, and he loved it, and basically came on and was our EP. He helped us find the initial funding to get it made. He is such a great asset because he always puts a second set of eyes on everything, and really has a lot of experience when it comes to creating story. And he was just a great person to work with, and it really helped me to know that I had someone, at least one person, who believed in what I was trying to do. And so Neil and I started out, and you know, right away when it came to casting, I debated whether I should play the role myself or not, and then I just ended up deciding to do it because I knew I had Neil on my team to run set while I was on camera. And but the casting for the male was an easy one. Escalante is not only a professional actor, but he's a very dear friend, and we met years ago in acting class, and we've been a brother and sister ever since. And he was the first person I thought of because not only is he physically my opposite and my balance, but you know, I knew in the film it was important to keep the tension of the film, and I knew it was important to have two people that had very different energies and very different physicalities that balanced out each other on camera, but also balanced each other out in every other way. And being we're really tight friends, I knew that we were like that. We're yin and yang, you know, anybody would tell you that. So he was a natural choice. Plus, he's such an intricate actor. And this story really lends itself to the gentleness of just allowing people to be. And he's an actor that understands what it means to just be there and let yourself feel, and not have to force anything, not have to feel the pressure to show you I'm sad or anything like that. He doesn't do any of that. And so I knew he was a great choice for that reason. As far as the rest of our crew, you know, Michael Liu, our DP and director, I had worked with on a film in Montana in the mountains, and I had seen some of his drone work, and I knew he was capable of producing beautiful imagery, and he has a very gentle heart. He really cares about people. So I reached out to him at first just about being our DP, and he said, you know, I'd like to direct because I want to do more film directing. So we talked about it, and he became our choice for director and DP, and he brought his crew on, and they were fantastic. What they did in just a couple days was beautiful work. Especially in intense conditions. We had snowstorms, we had all this stuff happening. We had 3 wrecks on sets that weekend because of cars, because of the snow and ice, and it was crazy. And under those conditions, cameras freezing up, all this kind of stuff, these boys, they made it happen, and they just made it happen. They caught these beautiful images and kept us on track and really helped to capture the story that we were trying to tell. The rest of the crew, you know, most of my crew flew themselves in from Louisiana to work on the project, which was such a gift to me because these are professionals that I know and I trust. And just the fact that they not only believed in the story, but they believed in it enough to put themselves out there and to sacrifice to make it happen was just a lovely thing. So Karen Clark had worked with me on multiple projects before, and she's just a master at taking a very small budget and getting you what you need when it comes to wardrobe and set dressing and props and all of that. She did all of that on this film, and I thought she did a great job of creating the world, you know. And then I was just honored to have people like Megan Aber, who is, wow, she's just a talented makeup artist, and you know, just to have the people with the right attitude and the right spirit and the right passion and the right compassion was a gift. And I think we had, and you know, maybe a little prejudice, but I think we had the best team ever to work on this film. And I think you see their love and their heart and their passion and their creative drive to tell story, like powerful story. I think you see that reflected on the screen. And I'm really proud of what we created. Our goal with Breathe from the beginning has been just to tell a story that we hoped would stimulate conversation on these topics. Everybody loses something in their lifetime, whether it's a person or a pet or a relationship or a job, or we lose things, and loss is just a part of life, and we all suffer through that, and the depression or the sadness or the emotions that come with that. And we just wanted this film to be a catalyst to start conversations with people who may be holding that in, or maybe who are dealing with it and don't know how to deal with it. So our goal has always been to get it into the hands of professionals who could use it. We hope that the average person will watch the film and be moved, and they are. We've received beautiful feedback from the screenings that we've had with the public. But our goal at the end of the day is to put it in the hands of therapists and counselors and grief counselors and people like that who have the ability to help people with the tools they need to recover. That is what this is meant to be, a tool to stimulate conversation. And that's just what we hope. We hope that it'll bring hope, and that it'll bring encouragement, and that it'll just, no matter how you're feeling or where you're at in your journey, that it'll encourage you to hang in there and to get help and to reach out if you need to. You know, that's the one thing that really stood out to me from the beginning is about the story, is that, you know, when you're in a dark space, you always feel like you're alone. You feel like you're by yourself. You feel so isolated sometimes. But most of us, if we look around us, we really do have some sort of a support system. There's somebody around us, a family member or a friend or a counselor or a therapist, a teacher. There's someone around us who cares. And so what we wanted to do was just remind people that even though you feel alone, you're not alone. Someone just like you is going through something very similar. Someone around you cares about what you're going through. And sometimes it's just a matter of us verbalizing what we need to get help and to get support. So that's what we want to do. We want to put it in the hands of people who can use it for conversation and use it to help each other through the challenges that life can bring.